He learned I cheated and left silently. People say cheaters always get what's coming to them, but no one warns you what it feels like when it actually does come. And it's not screaming or revenge or drama. It's just silence. Cold, calculated silence. I'm Emery. I'm 28. And 3 weeks ago, the man I loved more than anything found out I cheated. He didn't yell. He didn't beg for answers. He didn't even ask for the truth. He just vanished. Now I'm sitting alone in the same apartment we used to share. His scent fading from the pillows, his name a ghost in my mouth, trying to understand how I became the villain in a life I thought we were building together. I didn't cheat because I stopped loving him. I cheated because I was losing myself and didn't know how to say it. But none of that matters now. Not to him, not to our friends, not to anyone who once believed in us. Because when someone walks away that quietly, it doesn't feel like a breakup. It feels like a sentence. And this is mine. It was a Thursday. Nothing extraordinary. No ominous signs. Just one of those bland, gray-skied evenings where the world feels quiet in a way that's hard to name. The kind of quiet that gets under your skin and doesn't let go. I was carrying Thai food and a tote bag full of groceries, fumbling with my keys at the front door, humming some half-forgotten song under my breath. And when I stepped inside, I knew. Not suspected. Not wondered. Knew. The air in the apartment felt still. Not the peaceful kind, the empty kind. Like something essential had been sucked out. Finn's jacket wasn't hanging by the door. His boots weren't on the mat. The faint hum of his speaker, the one that always played jazz when he cooked, was gone. "Finn," I called out, already knowing there wouldn't be an answer. I walked into the living room. Neat. Too neat. Like a hotel room just before check-in. The blanket he always tossed on the couch was folded. His book, he was halfway through The Goldfinch, was gone from the coffee table. I dropped the groceries on the floor and ran to the bedroom. His side of the closet, empty. The drawer that used to overflow with his t-shirts and gym socks, bare. The framed photo of us at the lake, the one he swore made him look like a soaked Labrador, missing from the nightstand. Bathroom. Half the cabinet stripped. No razor, no cologne, no hairbrush with his stray strands tangled in the bristles. Just absence. Surgical, calculated absence. And on the bed, in the center of the mattress, like a centerpiece at a funeral, was my journal. Open. The page was folded over, like a confession, tucked into a priest's palm. I picked it up, already shaking. There it was, in my own handwriting. Ink smeared just slightly where I'd pressed the pen too hard. I don't know if it was love or just attention, but what I felt with Aaron was so real. More real than the silence between Finn and me these days. I know I'm playing with fire, but I'm already burned, aren't I? I sat down hard. My mind didn't rush. It stopped, like a car hitting black ice. The front door hadn't been broken into. No mess, no yelling, no confrontation. Finn had read it, and then he'd left. No note, no fight, just gone. I tried calling him within minutes. My hands were shaking so badly, I mistyped his name 3 times before finally hitting the right contact. It rang once, then straight to voicemail. I called again, same thing. A 3rd time, blocked. I didn't cry, not yet. I just sat there on the edge of the bed, staring at the phone like it might change its mind. This couldn't be happening. Not like this. We were supposed to fight, weren't we? Scream, blame each other, drag out our hurt until we were both exhausted. That's how endings worked. That's how they were supposed to feel. But this wasn't an ending. It was a disappearance. I texted him anyway. Finn, please, can we just talk? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to go that far. Please just say something. Nothing. I opened Instagram. Gone. Twitter. Gone. Even Spotify. He'd removed me from our shared playlist, the one we built together for road trips and lazy Sunday mornings. This was surgical ghosting. Not out of pettiness, out of pain, out of absolute blistering clarity. He didn't want to talk. He didn't want to rage. He didn't want closure. He wanted distance. I sat like that for hours. The Thai food went cold on the floor. My phone eventually died. I didn't move to charge it. I just stared at the blank space where his stuff used to be. And slowly, like water soaking into dry wood, the guilt started to spread. Not the kind you feel when you get caught. The kind you feel when you realize you broke something you can never, ever fix. The next morning, I woke up on the couch with my face stuck to the cushion. My eyes were crusted from sleep and dried tears. I plugged in my phone, praying for a message. Nothing. I tried calling one more time. Blocked. So I did the next worst thing. I called Kayla, our mutual friend, one of those people who always managed to stay neutral during fights. The diplomat. The peacekeeper. She answered after 2 rings, and her voice was colder than I expected. Hey. Kayla, I croaked. Have you talked to Finn? A pause. Then, he told me what happened. I swallowed. Did he say anything else? Another pause. Longer this time. He's hurt, Emery. Really hurt. I've never seen him like this. I closed my eyes. I didn't mean, but you did it. Her words hit me like a slap. Not because they were harsh, but because they were true. Is he okay? I whispered. He will be, eventually. But you should give him space. He doesn't want to see you. I felt something crack inside me. Everyone makes mistakes, I said, hating how desperate I sounded. Kayla sighed. Maybe. But not everyone lies about them for weeks. She hung up before I could respond. That was the first time it really hit me. It wasn't just Finn I'd lost. I was losing everyone. The silence stretched in 2 days. 3, then 4, then 7. Each morning, I'd wake up hoping it had all been some vivid nightmare. That I'd turn over and Finn would be there, half asleep, mumbling about coffee and cuddling me back under the covers. But the bed stayed cold. Reality settled over me like dust. And that's when the real unraveling began. I went back to work on Monday, trying to pretend everything was normal, smiling at clients, nodding through meetings. But people noticed. They always notice. Kayla hadn't told everyone, but she didn't have to. When someone as deeply good as Finn walks away from you without a word, people start connecting the dots. They start looking at you differently, like they can smell the betrayal on your skin. My coworkers were polite, but distant. Lunch invitations stopped. Conversations trailed off when I entered the room. I caught someone whispering in the break room, glancing at me, then whispering again. And worst of all, I understood. I deserved it. That realization stung harder than any insult ever could. Back at home, the isolation was worse. No one was texting. No one was calling. The group chats I used to laugh in every night had gone silent. Even my mom had left a hesitant voicemail saying, I heard something happened with Finn. Are you okay? I didn't call her back. How could I explain to my mother that I'd cheated on a man who treated me like gold? That I took the most stable, loving thing in my life and lit it on fire. That I let someone else touch me, not because I stopped loving Finn, but because I stopped loving myself. It started small. Late nights, too much wine, loneliness in the shape of a man I barely knew. A coworker. He listened. He complimented. He said all the things I wasn't hearing anymore, or thought I wasn't. I didn't plan it, but I didn't stop it either. And that's what I can't forgive myself for. The moment I crossed that line, I became someone else, a stranger to myself, and worse, a stranger to the man who trusted me with everything. Finn had asked me once, months ago, "Are you happy?" I told him yes. I believed I meant it, but looking back, that smile I gave him, it was hollow, because I wasn't happy. I was numb, and instead of talking to him, instead of trying to fix what was broken inside me, I reached for something cheap and temporary, something that made me feel alive for 5 minutes and ashamed for the rest of the year. And now I'm alone in the mess I made. One night, I went to the mirror and stared at myself for a long time. Eyes swollen, hair messy, skin pale. I looked like a ghost, but what haunted me most wasn't what I saw. It was the memory of the last time Finn looked at me, right before he left. No anger, no hatred, just disappointment. And disappointment hurts in a way rage never could. Because rage says, I still care. Disappointment says, I'm done. Grief is strange when you're the one who caused it. There's no one to blame, no one to scream at, no one to hold you while you cry. Only you, and the echo of your own decisions. I stopped eating properly, just coffee in the morning, and maybe a few bites of something cold at night. The fridge became a graveyard of old leftovers and unopened meals we used to cook together. Our favorite wine still sat on the top shelf, untouched. I couldn't bring myself to throw it out, but I couldn't drink it either. Evenings were the worst. That was when we used to come alive. Music playing while we cooked, candles lit even on weeknights, quiet laughter under dim lights. Now the silence had its own weight, its own gravity, and it kept pulling me down. I deleted the coworker's number, blocked him, not out of anger, but shame. He had no idea what he was a part of. He thought he was just filling a space, but the space was sacred, and I desecrated it. There was nothing left to say. I tried journaling once, opened a fresh page, stared at it, wrote, "Why did I do it?" I stared at those 5 words for 20 minutes. Then I ripped the page out and threw the notebook across the room, because I didn't have an answer. Not one that made any sense, not one that could undo what I'd done. Nights blurred into mornings. I'd lie awake at 2 a.m., scrolling through old photos, vacations, anniversaries, candid selfies. His hand always somewhere on me, my waist, my shoulder, my thigh. He was so present. That's what I didn't appreciate. I kept chasing excitement when I already had presence. Finn wasn't loud or flashy or dramatic, but he was there, in every quiet, unspoken way that mattered. And I traded that for someone who whispered compliments while I was tipsy and empty. God. The spiral deepened the day I passed him in public. It had been 3 weeks. He was crossing the street near the bookstore we both loved. He looked okay. Not happy. Not devastated. Just peaceful. Like someone who had found clarity in the chaos. I froze. He didn't. He saw me and walked right past. No nod, no glance, not even a flicker of recognition. as if I no longer existed. I stood there on the edge of the sidewalk, trembling like a child who lost their parent in a crowd. That bookstore used to be ours, that corner, that coffee shop. And now he moved through it like I'd never touched any of it, like I'd never touched him. That was the moment it hit me. He was healing, and I was still bleeding. That night, I fell apart completely, sobbing on the kitchen floor, clutching an old hoodie of his I hadn't washed. It still smelled like him, that warm cedar scent he always wore. I kept whispering, I'm sorry, over and over, like some broken prayer. But there was no one left to hear it, no one left to believe it. I used to think cheating was about selfishness, and maybe it is, but it's also about emptiness, the kind that consumes you quietly until you don't even recognize yourself in the mirror. There's a moment after grief when the silence becomes unbearable. Not because it's quiet, but because it never answers back. I was living in that silence now. Every day I woke up hoping this would be the day he reached out. It never was. So I broke, and I did something I swore I wouldn't do. I wrote him a message. It wasn't long. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't even a real apology. Not the kind he deserved. It was just, hey, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Not to fix anything, just to say it. I hope you're okay. I hovered over the send button for almost an hour. I kept rewriting it, deleting it, rewriting it again, and then I hit send. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then nothing. No reply. Not that night, not the next day, not ever. A week passed. I told myself he was thinking about it, processing, maybe too hurt to say anything. Maybe his silence was the message. But part of me still hoped. I even stalked his socials, not to check on him, but to feel close to him again. I'd stare at the same profile picture for minutes, hoping his eyes would soften, even in pixels. Then one morning I saw it. He changed his bio. It used to be an inside joke between us, something only we would understand. Now it was gone, replaced by something simple. No longer haunted. I don't think I've ever cried that hard. You think you'll be the exception. You think your connection is strong enough that he'll be the one who breaks, that he'll eventually give in and forgive you. But that's the lie. Because when you break someone's heart, you don't just lose them. You lose your place in their life, their future, their memory. You become a ghost. And the worst part is, you did it to yourself. I tried calling once. Just once. It rang 3 times, then straight to voicemail. His voice sounded different. Not angry, not cold. Just distant, detached. Like he had finally detached me from his life. That's when it sank in. There would be no reunion, no second chance, no late night talk where we cry and rebuild. This wasn't a pause. This was the end. I sat on the balcony that night, wine in hand, wearing a hoodie that still had his cologne clinging to the fibers. I imagined what he might be doing right now, laughing with friends, reading something deep and thoughtful like he always did, living. I wasn't in the picture anymore. I had become a chapter he closed, one he might never open again, and I had no one to blame but myself. It's strange how the hardest person to forgive is often yourself. For months, I searched for answers in other people, friends, coworkers, even strangers online. I wanted them to tell me I wasn't that bad, that I was worth more than my mistakes. But the truth? The truth was brutal and merciless. I was the architect of my own downfall. Sitting alone in my new apartment, I faced my reflection for the first time without flinching. No masks, no excuses, just me. The woman who chose to betray the man who loved her. The woman who ran from her own pain instead of facing it. The woman who thought love was about passion and excitement, but never learned that real love is about trust. The fragile, unbreakable thread that holds two souls together. And once it's broken, you can't just glue it back. You have to start from scratch. I didn't know who I was anymore. Not really, but I knew who I wanted to become. Someone honest, someone brave, someone who would never hide from herself again. I wasn't going to erase my past. It was written in scars and memories, but I could own it. I texted my sister. "Can I come over? I'm ready to talk." She didn't hesitate. Doors open. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. Not because I was certain of redemption, but because I was ready to stop running. Ready to start healing. Ready to face the mirror. Because maybe, just maybe, that was the only way forward.